Support for the Leadoff on WGLT and WGLT.org comes from the Central Illinois Regional Airport, where travelers are one stop away from world destinations. Connections on American Airlines to Chicago or to Dallas-Fort Worth are available daily. Close, convenient, CIRA. More at CIRA.com.
Two Twin City professors are unpacking facts and emotions in election decision-making. It's one of the things you need to know to start your day for Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Ryan Denham, and this is WGLT's The Leadoff. Now let's lead off with a discussion about what voters say they want and what they actually want, and how political campaigns try to cater to both. WGLT's Eric Stock previews an upcoming talk on that subject in Normal.
Political science professor Greg Shaw at Illinois Wesleyan University says voters often point to pocketbook issues, including jobs and the economy as a whole, as what sways them in each election. But he says more and more voters seem to identify with identity politics. Shaw says cultural issues such as abortion and immigration grab people viscerally, and political campaigns know this.
If I can mobilize my people better than the other guy, and so cultural issues do that really well, because if I want to talk about reproductive rights, there wouldn't seem to be much middle ground on that.
So Shaw says the so-called centrist voter is often overlooked. Illinois State University politics professor Lane Carruthers says social media amplifies this split-screen view of politics, though he says history tells us this time of hyper-partisanship is hardly unique. Still, Carruthers says those cultural issues often end up playing an outsized role in deciding elections.
We in no way, shape, or form ask these people or help them or try to figure out whether or not they'd be any good at being president.
Carruthers and Shaw will take part in a talk on election decision-making, facts or emotions, on September 15th at First United Methodist Church in Normal. With reporting from Colin Hardman, I'm Eric Stock.
Here are some other stories we're following in the WGLT newsroom. The town of Normal will reboot its long-running civic engagement program, teaching residents the ins and outs of town operations. The University of Illinois is unique in that it's pursuing mob action felonies against this spring's pro-Palestinian demonstrators, and a federal bankruptcy court judge has approved retention payments to certain employees of the Central Illinois nursing home company Peterson Healthcare, but will wait until later this month before deciding on incentives for key top executives. You can read more on these stories at WGLT.org. Millions of Illinois voters had their home addresses exposed this year by an election conspiracy peddler who operates right-leaning websites that purport to be impartial local news outlets. Those websites published allegedly restricted voter roll information and are now subject to a state lawsuit. A new WBEZ investigation now finds that the websites revealed where scores of state and federal judges live, even though judges' addresses are legally protected. Dave McKinney has more.
It was May of 2005, and federal judge Joan Lefkoe was in Washington, testifying before a Senate panel. She stoically described how a delusional plaintiff in her courtroom invaded her North Side home and murdered her mother and husband a few months earlier.
A litigant who was angry with me shot him in the head and my aged mother on February 28th of this year for no reason other than that they were in his way on his road to murder me. He could have easily added my daughter, who's 16 years old and lived in our house, and me. 228 is our own personal 9/11.
Senators were weighing enhanced security for judges that day and sat silently as Lefkoe laid out the still fresh horror.
An entire family has lost its ability to feel safe when we walk through the door of our own homes.
Nearly 2 decades later, threats against judges are on the increase, and WBEZ has found that dozens of state and federal judges in Illinois appear to have had their full home addresses revealed publicly this year. Websites run by an election conspiracy theorist began publishing lists of state voter roll information in January, all in the name of voter integrity.
Look, let's just publish all the voter rolls online so that everyone can see who's registered to vote.
That's Brian Timponi on a Chicago radio show last spring.
Now, a lot of people hear that and they think, well, I don't want my voter information made public. That's the bedrock of democracy, that a person who votes is actually a real person.
He's president of Local Government Information Services, which is being sued by the Illinois Attorney General for allegedly breaking state election law by publishing restricted voter data. Based on WBEZ's analysis, here are some of the, quote, real people whom Timpone put on his company's websites along with their addresses. More than 20 federal judges, several state Supreme Court justices, and even the Lake County judge hearing the state lawsuit against his firm. U.S. District Judge Virginia Kendall is the chief judge in the Dirksen Federal Building and a friend of Lefkoe's. She's not happy to learn so many of her colleagues appear to have had their home addresses made public by Timpone's company.
Horrific is my reaction.
A 12-year-old state law called the Illinois Judicial Privacy Act, which passed in response to the Lefkoe murders, allows judges to take steps to keep their addresses private.
To think that you uncovered a number of judges and their home addresses with such ease is not something that any of my colleagues would find comfortable. They would find that quite distressing.
All told, WBEZ identified 6.2 million Illinois voters whose personal information was published on LGIS websites. That would account for the majority of Illinois' roughly 8 million voters. Others listed on LGIS websites included those pursuing a high-profile narcotics case involving a foreign drug cartel, prosecutors in public corruption cases, Chicago sports luminaries, and billionaires. Anthony Cangelosi once served in the Secret Service and Department of Homeland Security and now lectures at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York. Actual acts of violence against judges remain rare, but Cangelosi agrees no good can come from making their home addresses public.
You can go online, you have a particular score to settle. Now you know where that individual lives, or you narrow down where that individual lives. And then you start taking the steps to do them harm.
Timpone on that radio show described his own vision of democracy, one in which personal information on every voter is made public to make sure fake votes aren't being counted. But one person missing from LGIS's voter roll data is Timpone himself, despite being a registered voter in Cook County. Dave McKinney, WBEZ News.
And before we let you go, the Bloomington Planning Commission meets today at 4 at the library. On the agenda is a proposed local landmarks designation for Holy Trinity Catholic Church and Rectory and related zoning changes. And that's it for today. I'm Ryan Denham. The show is produced by Rosalie Truback. You can subscribe to The Leadoff on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.